Okay. Are you ready to watch some clickbait? If you're ready to watch some clickbait, I'm ready to make some clickbait. So let's jump in. So anyways, I got a lot of questions from the viewers, the followers out there, and one of the big ones is, Eli, should I get a cybersecurity degree? I've heard cybersecurity is the cool thing and I want to jump on in. Should I get a cybersecurity degree? And most of the time I tell people, no. If you're asking me that question, the answer for you is no. Now, to be clear, it's not that nobody should get a cybersecurity degree. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that should get a cybersecurity degree. The difference between them and you, they're not asking me that question. And that's an important thing to understand, right? A lot of folks don't understand that cybersecurity is a specialization in the tech sector. And so basically, you should have a good idea of what's going on overall within your segment of technology before you get into the specialization of doing something like cybersecurity. So one of the things that I argue is you should go learn to code. You should learn to code, and once you learn to code, and once you learn systems, and once you learn all of these things, then if you want to get into the whole cybersecurity world, then that would be a good idea. And so I've been thinking about this because I'm currently working on this little, this little project for Silicon Dojo. So Silicon Dojo is reopening. The in-person environment was actually this Wednesday it's going to open. Anyways, I'm trying to figure out like little classes, little things that people can do in order to learn how technology works. And so I am working on this kind of like analytics dashboard, an intrusion detection dashboard that somebody could create. So one of the things that I think about is, if somebody gets into my environment, so let's say one of these Zimbabwean hackers, oops, is this working now? Oh, come on now. Let's say a Zimbabwean hacker, right, is able to get into my environment. One of the things that I'm concerned about is he's going to pull out his little Raspberry Pi with Nmap on it, and the first thing that he is going to do is he is going to do a really nasty ping sweep. So basically what a ping sweep does is, you ping all of the IP addresses within a subnet, and you see who the hell responds to you, and then when somebody responds to you, you then try to attack the hell out of them. So one of the first steps that you're going to do when you're going to try to compromise an infrastructure is generally do a ping sweep. So one of my questions is that if I know a ping sweep is the initial component to an attack, how can I detect that a ping sweep is occurring on my infrastructure? And then if I can detect that a ping sweep is occurring on my infrastructure, then can I do something with that information to trigger events, trigger firewalls to close, trigger SMSs to get sent out, or whatever. So basically what I've done is I've created this little crappy PHP app that shows me, what this does is this shows me the hackers, or basically the people that have pinged this particular Linux server. So I have Linux running in a virtual box here. So I have my little virtual box Linux here, and basically whenever anybody pings that particular server, I'm able to grab the IP address they pinged from, and I'm able to count how many times that somebody has pinged. So 192.168.1.13 has pinged the server 9 times, 5 has pinged it 56 times, and 14 has pinged it 16 times. And this is the latest hackers, the latest people to have tried to ping my server. If I go over to another computer and I start pinging, we will see this will all get updated in real time. And so this is a way that I can see in real time, basically who is trying to do something to this particular server. Now what's interesting about this is I'm just doing a ping request right now. Again, my concern at the moment is that we are doing ping sweeps. But the cool thing about this is actually parsing values coming out of something called Tcp Dump. And so I could see if somebody is trying to SSH into this particular box. I can see if people are trying to FTP into this particular box. I can see all of those different things. And so again, when you're thinking about creating something like a honeypot or whatever, you spin up a server on your infrastructure, you call it a really important server, and then you see who tries to SSH into it. And then again, imagine you have a dashboard like this, and instead of pings, basically ping request, this says who's tried to SSH into the server. If you see like 1 count or 2 counts of people trying to SSH into the server, maybe that makes sense. If you start seeing 10 or 20 counts of somebody trying to SSH into the server, then you probably want to track that IP address and figure out what the hell is going on, because you most likely have a nefarious Zimbabwean hacker on your infrastructure. So anyways, right? So this is the situation that I'm thinking about. Again, as a technology professional, one of my questions is, how can I be alerted in real time, near real time, to issues going on in my infrastructure, and then try to respond to that somehow. And so this is kind of a little project that I've created just as a simple way to demonstrate how this can be done. And again, what I'm showing you right now is ping requests, right? But again, that's an important thing, right? Why is somebody trying to ping this anonymous server on your infrastructure? Inquiring minds would like to know. But again, you can do this for SSH, you can do this for a lot of different things. And the interesting thing is, if you know how to code, all of this that we're looking at right now, these are simply variable values. These are actually in an array, but these are simply variable values. And again, once you can turn something into a variable value, then you can start, manipulating that variable value and then doing things based off of that. If somebody pings, the server over 50 times, then I can use the Twilio API in order to send me an SMS message. But you have to understand how all of this kind of stuff works. And again, that's my concern with all the people that are trying to get into cybersecurity. They want to get into cybersecurity without actually understanding technology. So let's explain this a little bit. All right, let's go over and diagram a little bit about what's going on right here. So basically what I have going on right here is I have my little Linux box. So currently I have a Linux box running in a virtual machine. And on that Linux box, what's happening is I have a piece of software, or an app, I suppose. An app called Tcp Dump, right? And so basically what Tcp Dump is doing right now is Tcp Dump is dumping into a dump file, right? So there's a dump file essentially called dumpfile.txt. And with Tcp Dump, what this does is this takes all of the network communication that is currently occurring on this particular Linux machine. So if we go over here, we pull up my Linux machine, oops, wherever the hell it is, we log into my Linux machine. I can show you TCP dump, right? So I've got a clear screen here. So I do sudo TCP dump. I'll hit enter. And basically, this is all the communication that is currently going on with my little Linux machine. You can see some IP addresses in there. You can see some domain gateway stuff. So you see a whole bunch of stuff. This is in real time how this particular computer is communicating. And this has almost all of the information there. Again, if somebody tried to request SSH, if somebody tried to get into FTP, they have all of that kind of stuff there, which makes it really cool and really useful. The thing is, right, when it is when it's simply in a terminal like this, I really can't do a whole hell of a lot with it. So what we're going to do is it's called pipe. You're going to pipe all of that information into a text file. So basically I've created this in real time, goes over, sends this information into a text file. And then what I do is I have a PHP script, right? And that PHP script, that then reads from the dump file, and based off of some if-else's and some other things, that's what then prints out my little web page that shows me the attackers and the stats and everything else. And so the interesting thing here is basically I'm taking this off-the-shelf product that is within Linux, dumping the output into the text file, and then being able to parse that with PHP. And so why this gets complicated is, you have to know what you're looking for. So again, I'm concerned about, people coming in with Nmap, having them do ping sweeps. So I have to know what Nmap is. I have to know what ping sweeps are. I have to know why this is a concern to my infrastructure. I then have to be able able to spin up a Linux server. I then have to understand, how TCP dump works and what it actually is able to provide. I then have to understand how to be able to pipe that data out into something like a text file. I then need some kind of programming language, PHP or Python or whatever else, to then be able to basically be able to parse this dump file. So I need to know what's in this dump file to the degree where I can actually have the code read it, and then I need to be able to figure out a way to then spit out that information into something that is actually useful for me. Now for this is a very simple project here. All I'm doing is dumping out to a web page, but again, I could have this trigger an API call. This is PHP here. I'll show it to you in a second. There's if-else statements there. So one of the things I could say is if the count of something is above 50, we're going to make an API call to Twilio and then send out an SMS message. Look at all this code and crap that you need to know what the hell is going on. And this is one of the reasons that I get concerned by so many people that want to go into, cybersecurity, is because so many times with, the people want to go into cybersecurity, they see the cool stuff, the bells, the whistles, the lazy James Bond, I suppose. They don't think about configurations and, ownerships and permissions and TCP dumps and that kind of stuff. Anyways, let's go over and actually take a look at this code for a little bit. So again, what I have right now is I have TCP dump. So sudo TCP dump. This has an export port to a human readable, an ASCII text file, because it can come out in hex or it can come out in ASCII. Do you know the difference between hex and ASCII? Again, big question there. What it's going to do is going to output, and it outputs to this crappy name called testfiles5.txt because I'm still playing around with it. So it's pumping it out right now, and we can't see anything on the screen because it's just not there. If we go over, I think text edit, this is what is actually getting pumped out in the file. So this is all of the information that TCP dump pumps out, right? So IP address, says who's talking to what, it gives different IP addresses, it gives acknowledgements, gives all kinds of interesting information in here. And so what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go through all of this and grab the information that we actually care about. So that's where we go over and we take a look at the code, right? So this is the actual code that gives us our fancy little dynamic web page that we have going on here. So the first thing that I have going on up at the top here is I have this in HTML, and this is a very simple way to basically auto refresh the page every 5 seconds. So that's where if we go, we see how that little blue bar every 5 seconds goes by, and basically that gives us the whole dynamic updating component. So basically it just auto refreshes itself, and then we'll see all of the numbers change around, and that's just a simple way to do the auto refresh. We then go into PHP. Then we're going to create an array. So we're going to have the array. What this is going to do is we're going to use the file function. And so that file that we've created from TCP dump, we are going to turn that into an array. So, so every line in that file is going to become one value in the array. I'm then going to reverse sort the array. So this will be chronological order initially, from start to end. So we want to actually see end to start so we can see the latest things that are occurring. And then I'm going to create another array called the attacker array. So I can dump information into this attacker array and pull out things such as the count, how many times somebody has actually tried to compromise my little box. We're then going to go through and we're going to step through this first array. So this first array is every single line from that test files 5.txt file. So from that, we're going to create the value or the variable line. So each line is going to go into the variable line. And then we're going to say if the line, so string position allows you to see if a word is in a line, right? And so we're going to look for a request. So basically what this does is if you go through and you look at the TCP dump, anytime anybody's trying to do like the ping, there's the request. This is one thing you have to think about when you're coding. This might not be perfect. I might have to tweak this at the end. There may be other things that do the request. But anyways, what this does is it says, okay, If the line that we're currently looking at has request in it, then what I want you to do is we're going to try to grab out the IP address. So these next lines of code grab out the IP address. So instead of having a big old nasty line, we want the IP address. So we're going to do this match. Basically, we are going to look for anything from IP all the way to that little arrow thing from line, and we're going to dump it into a result. We're then going to implode a result. Then what we're going to do, so basically this result is now going to be another array. We are going to basically kill the array. We're then going to, so it's now a string. We're now going to left trim from what we have, the IP away. So IP space is going to go away. And we're going to right trim from it, this little thingy, that is going to go away, and then we are going to push the value that we have now. So we have a result. We are now going to push that into the attacker array. So then we're going to have that third array, and that third array is we're going to do some cool things like count. So here what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, count, and then array count values is going to go through and it's going to count all the values in the array. So basically, with the array, there's 192.168.1.5, and then there's like 20 of these, and then 30 of these, and 9 of these, or whatever else. And so what this is going to do is it's going to come back with an array of a named key of the IP address, and then give me the count of how many times that IP address has tried to ping the server, essentially. This just prints out this information onto the screen, so we can actually see. So we have like titles and that type of thing, and then we're going to come down here, and so for each, so we're going to loop through this array that we've counted. For each, count as key value. So this is a named key array. That's an important thing. So you're going to print out the key and then the value. So what this is, the attack stats. So the attack stats, we're going to print out the array key, and then we're going to print out the value, which is the number of times that has shown up in that particular array. We're then going to go down here. So this is basically all printed in a table to make this nice and easy to read. We're then going to go down here. We're going to print the latest attackers. Then we're going to say for each, and we're going to take that attacker array that we had, and we're going to slice it. So we only want the last 10. So again, having this be like the latest attackers, right? If we didn't limit this somehow, this list would just go on and on and on and on forever. So I just want to limit this to like the last 10. And so in order to do that, we use array slice. So array slice from space 0 to space 10. So basically grab only those, and then as key value, and then we're going to simply print out the value, and then that's going to print out these. So as it goes through, it prints out those. Again, if I go over here, I ping from another box, we'll see it then updates, and so what's at the bottom, that disappears, then, as it comes in, we can see the latest, quote unquote attackers that are trying to compromise this particular little box. And so this is this is just eeny, meeny, weeny. This is eeny, meeny, weeny. This is eeny, meeny, weeny, the type of thing that I would try to teach at Silicon Dojo to basically people that are vaguely interested in what the hell is going on. But I want you to think about all the stuff that you have to understand to create a project this idiotically simple. You have to understand networking, you have to understand a bit of protocols, you have to understand how to build your own server, you have to understand how to use Linux tools or other types of tools and dump their information into things like text files. Once they're in the text file, you then have to think about how you're going to parse that text file, how you're going to grab the information out of the text file. Once you've grabbed way too much information out of the text file, then you have to trim down to the exact thing that you're actually looking for, and then past that, you need to do all the code, blase, blase, blase. Past this, like one of the things that you could do, one of the things I may do with this, just to play around with it, is you could could then dump those values into a database. So right now everything's getting dumped in that big ass text file. Big ass text files are a pain in the ass to deal with. So what I could have is I could have the PHP script and grab out these values and then dump them into a database. And once it's in a database, that's a much more stable, robust way of storing these types of data. You have to think about data cleanup. Again, if I have TCP dump and this thing is running for days and days and days and weeks and weeks and weeks, at some point it's going to take up all the resources of this little Linux box. And one of the questions is how do I clean out that little log file, that little dump file that I'm creating? How is that actually going to occur? Blah, 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 blah. Again, if I want to create this and make it more sophisticated, again, doing things like using Twilio or SendGrid to send out an SMS or send out an email to people, I could have this actually do things such as send commands to some of my networking equipment, or basically send a command into some kind of file somewhere else that the networking equipment could read. So again, imagine with this, if something just starts pinging the hell out of the network a lot for some reason, in this particular instance, if I was using like Linux-based network equipment, IP tables or something like that, one of the interesting things is I could just turn on a firewall and try to shut down all communication between that particular box and the external world to try to segregate it and compartmentalize it to make sure that we don't have any other problems. Depending on my networking infrastructure, depending on the software firewalls that I'm using, they could all theoretically be reading from some kind of blacklist, and as soon as an IP address shows up in that blacklist, all of them could reconfigure their UFW firewalls or such in order to block any communication. So imagine you have, imagine if you have, 10 servers, right? So you got a lot of servers. So you got your, you got your Apache server, or if you're one of the cool people, you have Engine X or whatever. You have Nginx server. You have your MySQL server. You have some FTP, some data store servers. Maybe you even have an Active Directory server, right? And so let's say that Zimbabwean hacker, they sneak into your infrastructure. They start using Nmap. They start doing a ping sweep. And so let's say whatever it is that you're looking for, ping or SSH or anything else, let's say one server is the current target of the attack, right? So let's say they're trying to use SSH into your web server, and they are not supposed to do it. So when they try to SSH, the Apache server, that can get dumped into a log file. That log file can then be parsed, and then it can say, 192.168.1.55 is trying to SSH into my Apache server. So one, I want to turn on my firewall for the Apache server to no longer respond to 192.168.1.55 because we think he's an attacker. Then not only that, but currently the attack is against the Apache server. At any time, these attacks could be turned against the MySQL, the FTP, the Active Directory server. So again, if you have some kind of routine where the information can be shared, they can go, okay, we all see what this person is doing, so I'm going to put the firewall, I'm going to do the firewall, I'm going to do the firewall, and then that's a way to segregate this particular user on the network. So there you go. You follow along at home, boys and girls! So anyways, this is some of the things that you need to be thinking about. Again, if you are going to be a real cybersecurity expert, and I mean a real one, again, a lot of people think I'm like anti-cybersecurity. No, we need real anti-cybersecurity experts. We don't need more people that just have a piece of paper and that's it. And the thing is, to be a real cybersecurity expert in the modern world, you need to know how to code. You need to know how to deal with databases. You need to know how to deal with these systems. You need to know how the systems are used in the real world. You need to be able to think creatively like an attacker to try to figure out what would be the signals that an attacker is on the network. You need to be able to grab, again, log files. That's a cool thing nowadays, right? A lot of people, like when they try to code stuff, they think they have to reinvent the wheel. The reality is that there's a hell of a lot of software already out there that does exactly what you need. That what all you have to do is you just have to be able to basically pull the values coming out of that software into something like a text file so that you can parse it, right? You do not have to reinvent TCP dump. Use TCP dump, then take the data that's pulled out of TCP dump in order to do the auto configurations on things like firewalls and intrusion detection systems, all of that kind of stuff. But those are all the kinds of stuff that you really have to think about and you have to know about. And why I get really concerned about people trying to get into the whole cybersecurity world is there's this it's kind of like there's this idea that it's easy, right? You know, again, that's a funny thing. That's what I love when people say, "Oh, I don't want to learn how to code." Eli, I love technology. I love technology, Eli. I've wanted to do technology all my life. I'm like, okay, great, learn to code. Well, I don't like to code. And I think that's one of my big concerns is, right, there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people, they love technology. But then they look at like some degree in coding or whatever else, something that's very code intensive, and they go, "Oh, I can't do that. And that's too intimidating." And then you got the slick one. You got the slick salespeople. Hey, little computer geek. Do you want to be, worth a lot of money in the computer world? Do you want to have respect and responsibility in the computer world, but you don't really want to know how to do this coding stuff? Yeah, I do. Well, all you have to do is sign away $100,000 and we'll get you a cybersecurity degree. And then you come out with a cybersecurity degree and what do you actually know, right? If you have a coder, if you know how to code, if you know how to deal with real technology, the rest of the stuff is a hell of a lot easier. If you simply know cybersecurity, I know penetration testing. Great. Do you know how to build a server? I think about it. I was talking with a police officer once, and I got my degree in criminal justice. And again, this was one of the gut checks in life. Oh, the gut check I'm trying to give you folks. Anyways, I was talking to this police officer years ago after I got my criminal justice degree. And I told him that I got a criminal justice degree. And I still remember him looking at me and saying, "Why?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Well, if you got a degree in anything else, if you got a degree in chemistry, if you got a degree in computer science, if you got a degree in anything else, the agencies and police organizations will hire you. All they care about is that you have a four-year degree. But here's the thing. If you get a degree in IT or chemistry or something else and you decide not to be a cop, then you have a degree that allows you to do something else. If you get a degree in criminal justice and you decide not to be a cop, it's really actually not that valuable." And I think that's one of the things I think about a lot with cybersecurity is like, if you really know infrastructure, if you know coding, if you know data science, if you know that, you can figure out cybersecurity. You'll be fine. Learn a little bit of this, learn a little bit of that, you'll be fine with cybersecurity. If you know cybersecurity, which I know a lot of people do, you're not necessarily going to get a job as a coder, not necessarily going to get a job in infrastructure. You might get a help desk position. So that's just, some real world things, some stuff that I'm working on, trying to make a little clickbait. Hey, we all know my YouTube channel is dead. My YouTube channel. I have 1 million subscribers on a dead YouTube channel. Anyways, I gotta milk that somehow. Gotta milk that little YouTube earnings channel somehow. So that's it. So what do you think about this? Am I out of my mind? Am I out of my mind? No, Eli. No, Eli. Cybersecurity professionals don't need to know how to parse things. Don't be ridiculous. No, Eli. Cybersecurity professionals don't need to understand how infrastructure works. Don't be ridiculous. Don't you understand? We get paid because we have a piece of paper. Are you going to make that argument? Are you going to make that argument to me? I don't know. Make it down below. Again, if you like what I do, if you like all the things that I actually am doing, there's a little donor box link down below. You can click on that, throw a couple of dollars in. We do the tech hours, you do tech office hours, usually Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that's where we do the Zoom meetings, actually have people come on, have conversations and all that. And then also, Silicon Dojo is actually opening up. Shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell the wrong people. Silicon Dojo, Wednesday we're opening up for actual office hours, 1 to 5. I'm slowly going to be building up a curriculum. And so this is a real hands-on physical education classroom that I've created here in Asheville. I'm currently working on a curriculum, trying to figure out how to teach things. Again, creating a product, right? You have an idea and then you actually have to create the product. And so for me, it's creating classes. So that's why I'm working through some of this stuff, trying to figure out interesting things to do that show people the importance of things. Think about signing up for the meetup on that too. If you're in the Asheville area, you can show up and play around with stuff. And with that, I will go. So anyways, some things to ponder. Just to think about this when you think about wanting to be in cybersecurity and asking yourself, if you are going for a cybersecurity degree, what are you learning? What problem are you actually solving?